Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. The cruelest thing my wife ever did was laugh on the phone and say, "He thinks they're his, like my love for our kids was a joke she could pass around for fun." Then she called it convenient, like I was a paycheck with a pulse. Here's how it happened. My name is Darius Coleman, 34, black, born on the south side of Chicago, and raised on the kind of rules you don't write down. Show up, keep your word, don't embarrass your family. I work logistics for a regional distribution company near Bedford Park, where time is money and every late truck has a reason. I'm not flashy. I don't talk big. I'm the guy who fixes what's broken and doesn't announce it. I thought that was what a marriage needed: steady hands and a steady heart. Keisha Coleman looked steady when you first met her. Pretty in a clean way. Always neat, always pressed, always the type to keep her edges laid, even when the lights were off. She had a habit of tapping her acrylic nails against whatever surface was closest when she lied. The kitchen counter, the arm of the couch, the side of her phone. I noticed it early and told myself it was just nerves. Keisha also hummed gospel songs when she was pretending everything was fine, like she could sing her way out of consequences. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment above a laundromat in Chatham, the kind that smells like detergent and warm metal no matter how many candles you light. You could hear the washers at night, a soft thump-thump that felt like a heartbeat when everything was good. When it was bad, it felt like a reminder that time was moving whether we were okay or not. The building had a narrow hallway that always held someone's cooking: onion, garlic, frying oil, and Keisha kept air freshener by the door like a scent. Our mornings ran on routine. I woke at 5:15 before the city fully opened its eyes, and I made the kids oatmeal exactly how they liked it. Jalen, 8, hated mush, so I kept his thicker cinnamon. Amara, 5, loved bananas, so I sliced hers like coins and let her count them. I packed lunches: turkey sandwiches, apple slices, little chips. Then I checked the weather and laid out their coats. Keisha liked to sleep. She'd pop up at the last moment, eyelashes perfect, acting like she'd been working the whole time. I didn't mind doing most of it. I grew up watching my mother work double shifts and still make sure we ate. Love looked like labor in my family, so I labored. Keisha always said I was too serious, like responsibility was a personality flaw. She'd tease me when I triple-checked the door lock. "You and these receipts," she'd say, laughing, but I kept receipts because life had taught me that people rewrite history when it benefits them. The first crack didn't look like betrayal. It looked like distance. Keisha started staying out later, claiming extra hours at the clinic where she worked as a scheduler. Her stories got sloppy. One night, she said a coworker's car broke down in Cicero, so she had to give her a ride. Another night, she said she was helping Bria with something and didn't answer her phone for hours. When she came home, her perfume sat heavy on her, like it had been sprayed to cover up something else. Bria was Keisha's best friend, loud and shiny, always talking like she had inside information on everybody. She drove a beat-up white SUV with tinted windows and the kind of laugh that could fill a room. Bria loved to call me a good man, right to my face, but her eyes never held respect. She'd look past me like I was furniture, then compliment my apartment like she didn't see the work I put into keeping it peaceful. Keisha adored Bria's confidence and copied her phrases like they were scripture. Around that time, Keisha's mother, Loretta, started acting differently too. Loretta lived out in Calumet City, and she loved to remind me she raised Keisha to be smart. Her compliments always came with a blade tucked inside. "You're a hard worker, Darius," she'd say, "and that's good, because life is expensive." Her husband, Curtis, barely spoke to me unless it was about sports, and even then it was like he was testing how much I knew, not trying to connect. I was not perfect in all this. I can admit that now. I thought being calm could fix anything. When Keisha got snappy, I got quiet. When she rolled her eyes, I looked away. I didn't like conflict, not because I was scared, but because I hated what it did to the kids. My father used to argue loud enough to shake our windows, and I promised myself my home wouldn't sound like that. Sometimes, though, silence isn't peace. Sometimes it's permission. The night I overheard the sentence that cracked my life open started like any other. It was a Tuesday in late October, wind slicing down the street like Chicago had a grudge. I got off work with my back tight from lifting pallets and my head full of numbers, routes, delays, dock schedules. I stopped at the corner store on 79th for milk, then brought home fried chicken from a spot that always smelled like pepper and hot grease. Keisha texted, running late. Don't wait up. I fed the kids, did homework, and folded laundry while the washers downstairs hummed. Around 9:40, Keisha finally came in. Her heels clicked on the old hallway tile, and her keys jingled too loud like she wanted to announce herself. She smelled like a sweet perfume I didn't buy, and she was humming, soft and off-key, blessed assurance like she was trying to bless her way out of suspicion. She walked past me without a real kiss, brushed my cheek like a polite coworker, and said, "I'm just going to call Bria real quick." She went into the laundry room, the small space with a folding table and a shelf full of detergent, and she didn't fully close the door. I stood in the kitchen holding a missing sock, the way you do when your hands need something to do. At first, I didn't mean to listen. Then I heard Bria's voice through the speaker, sharp and excited, and I heard Keisha laugh. It wasn't her normal laugh. It was a lighter one, like she was younger and careless. "Girl," Keisha said, tapping her nails, tap, 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 against the metal shelf. "He thinks they're his." Bria cackled like she'd been waiting for that line. "Stop playing." "I'm dead serious," Keisha said. "He is so proud. It's actually convenient." Something in me went cold, but my body didn't move. My mind tried to protect me by offering excuses. Maybe she's joking. Maybe she means something else. Maybe I'm hearing wrong. But the words were too clean, too direct. Bria asked, "So you never gonna tell him?" And Keisha said, "Why would I? He does what he's supposed to do." I didn't burst in. I didn't snatch her phone. I didn't do anything dramatic. I just stood there, breathing so slow it felt like I was underwater. My chest tightened, not with rage at first, but with humiliation. I thought of Jalen's little hand in mine at the bus stop. I thought of Amara climbing into my lap to watch cartoons, calling me daddy with her whole face. I thought of all the times Keisha watched me love them and let me. I felt stupid in a way that made my ears ring. When Keisha came out of the laundry room, she smiled like nothing happened. "You good?" she asked, like she didn't just pull the floor out from under me. Her nails tapped the doorframe once, quickly, her tell. I swallowed hard and nodded. My voice came out too even. "Yeah, just tired." Keisha studied me for half a second, then shrugged, already bored. "Same," she said, and went to the bathroom. I stared at the kitchen sink like I could scrub the moment off my skin. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling while the laundromat machines thumped below us, and every sound felt like a countdown. Keisha rolled over and pressed her back against me like she was innocent. I lay there stiff, listening to her breathing, wondering who I'd been sleeping next to all these years. My mind kept replaying her sentence, not because I didn't understand it, but because I needed the words to change if I stared at them long enough. The next morning, I still got up at 5:15. I still made oatmeal. I still packed lunches. I still walked the kids to the bus stop, past the barber shop where Mr. Leon swept hair off the sidewalk, past the diner that smelled like bacon and coffee. I still said, "Be good. I love you." They said it back like it was the most certain thing in the world. That hurt the worst. How certain they were, how unsure I suddenly felt. At work, I moved like a ghost. My supervisor asked if I was okay, and I said, "Just a long night." I kept looking at my hands like they belonged to someone else. On my lunch break, I sat in my car, the steering wheel cold under my palms, and I made a call I never imagined I'd make. I called an attorney whose number was on a folded business card one of my drivers had given me months ago. He'd said, "If you ever need family law, call this man. He doesn't play." The attorney's name was Marcus Hale, and his voice sounded like calm steel. He didn't ask for drama. He asked for facts. "Are you married?" "Yes." "Do you have children?" "Yes." "What exactly did you hear?" I told him a line, and even saying it out loud made my throat burn. Marcus didn't react like it was shocking. He reacted like it mattered. "Don't confront yet," he said. "Don't text it. Don't give her time to shape the story. We're going to move correctly." Correctly sounded like relief. Marcus told me about options, legal separation, custody schedules, financial protections. He explained paternity in a way that didn't shame me, but didn't soften the truth either. If you want certainty, he said, you get the legal way. Quietly, he told me how chain of custody testing worked and why it mattered. He warned me not to do anything that could be used against me. Stay steady, he said. Let her be reckless. Document everything. When I got home that evening, Keisha was in the kitchen scrolling her phone, humming again like she could hum away the world. She didn't ask about my day. She asked if I could send her money for a bill because her account was acting weird. I looked at her, this woman with perfect lashes and empty eyes, and something in me snapped into focus. I said, yeah, I'll handle it. She smiled like she'd won. She didn't realize I was buying time. Over the next week, I watched Keisha like I'd never watched her before. It was small things. The way she angled her phone away from me. The way she stepped outside to take calls. The way she'd suddenly pick arguments over nothing. My tone, the way I loaded the dishwasher, like she needed me to be the villain, so she could feel justified. Every time she lied, those nails tapped. Tap, tap, tap. I started hearing that sound in my head, even when she wasn't around. I also watched myself, and that part hurt too. I saw how often I'd ignored the little discomforts because I wanted to believe in my own life. I saw how I'd accepted Keisha's disrespect in small doses like it was normal. I saw the pride in my own steadiness, how I liked being the reliable one, the strong one, the man who could handle it. Sometimes pride keeps you quiet when you should speak. Sometimes it keeps you in a burning house because you don't want to admit you're getting burned. Marcus Hale told me to build a record, not a revenge fantasy. So I started writing things down. Dates, times, Keisha's excuses, when she came home late, when she didn't come home at all, when she spent money from the joint account on things that didn't make sense. I kept it in a plain notebook tucked inside a box of old work documents. I hated that I needed it, but I hated lying to myself more. I also started a ritual for my sanity. Every morning at 5:10, before the oatmeal, before the lunches, I put on a hoodie and walked. Sometimes along the quiet blocks of Chatham, sometimes down toward the lake when I had time. One earbud in old soul music, Marvin, Al Green, songs that sounded like pain dressed up as beauty. The cold air cut my cheeks and kept me from falling apart. I didn't cry out loud. I just let tears leak quietly and freeze at the corners of my eyes like proof I was still human. The legal DNA test happened on a Saturday. I told Keisha I was taking the kids to a museum day at Hyde Park. She barely looked up from her phone. Have fun, she said like motherhood was something she'd outsourced to me. I took Jalen and Amara to get the samples done the right way, the official way. They didn't know what it meant. Jalen asked if it was like a science project. I told him something like that, and my voice cracked on the last word. Waiting for the results was its own kind of torture. Keisha stayed careless, which made it worse. She'd ask me to pick up her dry cleaning. She'd hand me her phone to take a picture and snatch it back too fast. She'd laugh at something Bria texted and tilt the screen away like I was a child. Every time she touched me, I felt my skin reject her. But I kept my face calm because Marcus was right. If she knew, she'd turn into war. The first time Keisha accused me of acting funny, I almost broke. It was after I'd said I couldn't send extra money because I was catching up on bills. She put her hands on her hips, nails flashing, and said, "What's going on with you lately? You got secrets." I stared at her and felt the unfairness like a weight. She was the one with secrets, and she was mad I wasn't funding her comfort the way I used to. I said, "No secrets, just responsibilities." Keisha rolled her eyes. "Whatever," she said and walked off. Loretta called me that week too. "Keisha said you've been tense," she said, like my wife's feelings were the only facts that mattered. "Don't start acting brand new, Darius. Marriage takes work." I nearly laughed. Loretta didn't ask what Keisha had done. She didn't ask if I was okay. She asked me to stay useful. I kept my voice polite. "Yes, ma'am," I said because old habits die hard. But after I hung up, I stared at my phone and realized something. Keisha wasn't alone in her disrespect. She came from a whole system that taught her men were resources, not partners. When the results came, Marcus called me himself. His voice didn't change, but mine did. "Darius," he said, "we got them." He paused, just enough to let me brace. One child is biologically yours. One is not. The world narrowed to that sentence. I sat on my couch, staring at the wall, while the laundromat thumped below. I didn't scream. I didn't punch anything. I just went quiet in a way that felt like leaving my own body. My first thought was Amara's little face. My second thought was Keisha's laugh. Here's the truth I don't say out loud. I didn't love Amara less in that moment. I loved her so much it made me furious. Because none of this was her fault. She was a child who called me daddy because I was the one who showed up. The betrayal wasn't about blood. It was about the way Keisha watched me give my whole heart and decided that was something to exploit. I sat there until my legs went numb. Then I stood up and washed dishes that were already clean because my hands needed something to do. Marcus guided me through the next steps carefully. He didn't push me into a dramatic decision. He explained legal options and what they meant for my responsibilities. He reminded me that the court deals in paperwork, not feelings. You can still be a father in every way that matters, he said, but you need to protect yourself from being trapped in a lie forever. I told him I didn't want to hurt the kids. Marcus said, then move smart, quiet, consistent. I started shifting my money, slowly enough not to trigger Keisha's radar. I opened a new account at a bank across town, near Bronzeville, and I changed my direct deposit at work. I left enough in the joint account to keep the lights on and groceries in the fridge. I didn't do it out of cruelty. I did it because I could see the future. Keisha spending everything, then blaming me for the empty account. I also froze my credit, something I didn't know you could do until Marcus told me. It felt like locking the doors of a house you finally admitted was unsafe. Keisha stayed the same. No remorse, no tenderness, just impatience. She started treating the apartment like a hotel. She'd come in, toss her purse, scroll her phone, complain about the kids' noise like they were strangers. Jalen noticed first. Mommy doesn't like being here, he whispered one night when Keisha snapped at him for asking for help with homework. I hugged him and said, your mom is stressed, because I didn't know how to tell my son the truth without breaking him. That lie tasted like metal. Bria started coming around more too, always with a grin, always with something slick to say. One Saturday, she sat on our couch eating chips like she paid rent. Darius, you still Mr. Perfect? She teased. Still doing the most? Keisha laughed, tapping her nails against her cup. Tap, tap, tap. I smiled politely and went into the kitchen, but inside I felt something hard forming. Bria didn't respect me because Keisha didn't. People take their cues from the closest thing to the truth in a room. The first time I almost confronted Keisha was when I found a receipt in her purse for a hotel near Oakbrook. It was folded like she'd tried to hide it. My hand shook as I held it. I wanted to slam it on the table and ask who. I wanted to demand answers, to watch her face crack. But I remembered Marcus's voice. Don't give her time to shape the story. I put the receipt back exactly where it was and washed my hands until they were red, like soap could erase what I knew. I started taking the kids out more, not to distract them, but to give us something real in the middle of fake. We went to the library in Greater Grand Crossing. We got hot chocolate at a cafe in Hyde Park when the snow came down soft and thick. We sat in the car and listened to music while the heater blew warm air on our faces. Jalen would tell me facts he learned at school, like he was trying to keep me anchored. Amara would fall asleep with her head on my shoulder, trusting me with her whole body. I kept telling myself, love is still real even when the person you married made it messy. The confrontation finally happened in the quietest way. Keisha came home late one Friday, smelling like that sweet perfume again. She tossed her keys into the bowl by the door and said, "Don't start," before I even spoke. That told me she knew she looked guilty. I stared at her and said calmly, "We need to talk." Keisha sighed like I was a bill. "About what?" she asked, nails tapping the counter. "Tap, tap, tap." I said, "About the kids." Her eyes narrowed. "What about them?" she snapped. I took a breath that felt like swallowing fire. "I heard you," I said. "I heard what you told Bria." For a split second, Keisha's face went blank. Not remorseful, blank like a calculator resetting. Then she laughed, a short, sharp sound. "So you've been eavesdropping now?" she said, turning it on me like that was the crime. I felt my stomach drop at how easy it was for her to avoid the truth. "Keisha," I said, "I heard you say," she cut me off. Okay. And she folded her arms. What do you want me to do, cry? You should have seen it coming. That sentence hit harder than the original. You should have seen it coming. Like I was foolish for trusting the woman I married. Like love was a mistake. My voice came out low. So, you're not even denying it? Keisha shrugged, eyes cold. Deny what? You always act like you were the hero. You want a family so bad, you got one. I stared at her and realized I'd been holding on to a version of her that didn't exist. The woman in front of me wasn't confused or sorry. She was irritated that I'd noticed. I asked her, "Who's the father?" Keisha rolled her eyes like I was slow. "Does it matter?" she said. "You raised them. You love them. Why are you making it weird?" I almost lost it then, not because of the betrayal, but because of how she tried to weaponize the kids' love against me. She tried to make my devotion the trap. My hands balled in a fist, but I kept my voice even. "You made it weird," I said. "You made a lie." Keisha scoffed. "Life is a lie," she said, and walked past me toward the bedroom. That night, I slept on the couch. Keisha didn't care. She didn't even ask why. She just closed the bedroom door like she was shutting out a problem. The next morning, she acted normal, making coffee like we were fine. She hummed gospel again, loud enough for me to hear, like a performance. I watched her and felt a strange calm settle. It wasn't peace. It was clear. I realized Keisha wasn't going to change. She wasn't going to apologize. She wasn't going to suddenly become the woman I needed. So the only thing left was what Marcus told me. Move clean. The legal process started quietly. Marcus filed paperwork that didn't look dramatic. No shouting matches, no police, no viral exposure. Just documents, dates, and the kind of truth that sits heavy on a page. Keisha got served on a Tuesday afternoon, right after she'd come home from work. I wasn't there. I was at the bus stop with the kids, like always. When I got home, Keisha was furious, but not heartbroken. Furious like her convenience had been interrupted. "So you trying to play me?" she snapped, waving the papers in the air. "You think you're smart?" I looked at her and said, "I'm trying to protect myself." Keisha laughed, sharp and mean. "Protect yourself from what?" "Being a man." She stepped closer, eyes hard. "You gonna mess up your kid's life because your ego hurts?" That's when I realized her favorite weapon was shame. She wanted me to feel like leaving a lie was selfish. She wanted me trapped by my own decency. Marcus arranged temporary schedules that kept the kids stable. Keisha barely fought for time with them. She fought for money. She wanted the same access to my resources she'd always had. She texted me late at night, switching between insults and fake sweetness. One message said, "You're really doing this to your family." Another said, "We can work it out if you stop acting crazy." I didn't respond. I let Marcus handle communication. The silence made Keisha angrier because she couldn't twist my words when I didn't give her any. The consequences for Keisha didn't fall like lightning. They fell like slow rain, steady, soaking, unavoidable. The joint account stopped being her playground. Her credit card got declined at a beauty supply store on 87th, and she came home blaming me. "You messed up my card," she shouted. I didn't shout back. I just said, "You need to check with your bank." Her phone rang more often, and she started stepping outside to answer. I could hear her voice through the window, tense now, not playful. I said I got it. She'd hiss, then hang up hard. Bria stopped visiting as much once the situation got real. That's how you know who's built for life and who's built for gossip. Bria loved the story when it was entertaining. She disappeared when it was inconvenient. Keisha started calling Loretta more, and Loretta started calling me more too, leaving voicemails that sounded like warnings. "Don't embarrass my daughter," Loretta said. "Keisha is a good woman." I played that voicemail twice, stunned by the audacity, then deleted it. I didn't have room for people who defended lies like they were tradition. The man behind the lie didn't step in like Keisha expected. I never even had to chase him down. Keisha's mood told me everything. She'd come home with her mouth tight, her eyes meaner, her nails tapping faster. Tap, 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 tap. One night, she shouted into her phone, "So you just not going to answer me?" Then threw it on the couch and stared at the wall like she hated it. I watched from the kitchen doorway and felt something like grief. Grief that she'd bet her life on somebody who didn't care, and grief that she'd risk my heart for a man who wouldn't even pick up the phone. I focused on what I could control. I worked extra shifts when I could. I asked for more responsibility at work, Nothing flashy, just steady growth. My boss noticed. "You've been sharp lately," he said. I almost laughed at that, because pain will make you sharp if you let it. I started budgeting like it was a second job. I cooked at home more. I stopped buying little things that didn't matter and started putting money aside like I was building a wall. Quietly, my life began to feel like mine again. Jalen struggled in his own quiet way. He started wetting the bed again, something he hadn't done in years. He got angry at school over small things and then cried in the car like he didn't understand his own feelings. I didn't punish him. I talked to him like he was a person. "It's okay to be mad," I told him. "It's not okay to hurt people." He asked me once, voice small, "Are you and Mommy breaking up because of me?" That question took my breath. I pulled over near the lake and held his face gently. "Never because of you," I said. "Never." Amara stayed affectionate, but I noticed her watching Keisha more. Kids see what adults think they hide. She'd sit near Keisha and offer her toys, like peace was something she could buy with plastic. Keisha would barely look up. "Not right now," she'd say, irritated, and Amara's little shoulders would slump. I started making Amara her own rituals, Saturday pancakes, bedtime stories with silly voices, little dances in the living room when the radio played something upbeat. I wanted her to feel love as something reliable, not something you had to beg for. Keisha never softened. She didn't have a moment of reflection. She didn't cry and say she was sorry. She got more defensive, more cruel, like cruelty was her armor. One afternoon she hissed, "You think you are better than me because you got a job and a routine." I looked at her and said, "No, I think I deserve honesty." Keisha sneered. "Honesty doesn't pay bills," she said. That line stuck with me because it revealed her whole worldview. In her mind, love was a transaction. In mine, love was supposed to be safe. The legal outcomes came, not with fireworks, but with clarity. Custody schedules became official. Financial responsibilities became defined. Keisha hated that most. She hated limits. She hated not being able to take from me whenever she felt like it. She tried to bait me into arguments in front of the kids, and I refused. She texted me insults, and I didn't respond. She tried to tell people I was cold, and I let them believe what they wanted. I wasn't trying to win a popularity contest. I was trying to build a life the kids could breathe in. By spring, the slow tightening became visible. Keisha's car got repossessed from outside the building one early morning while the sky was still gray. I watched from the window, not with joy, but with a heavy understanding. Consequences don't care about pride. Keisha stormed into the apartment screaming, "This is your fault." Jalen flinched like her voice was a slap. I stepped between them calmly and said, "Not in front of the kids." Keisha glared like she wanted to hate me more than she wanted to protect them. She grabbed her purse and left, heels clicking like gunshots in the hallway. After that, Keisha started asking for help in a way that still wasn't humble. It was more like demands dressed up as requests. "Can you just cover this?" she'd say, as if I owed her comfort forever. When I said no, she called me selfish. When I offered help for the kids directly, paying for school supplies, clothes, doctor visits, she called me controlling. She wanted the freedom to misuse, not the support to survive. That's the difference between someone who wants partnership and someone who wants access. My private transformation didn't look like a victory lap. It looked like small decisions stacked on top of each other until they formed a new life. I moved us into a clean, quiet place in Cleveland Park, still Chicago, just calmer, tree-lined streets, less noise from the laundromat machines, a little more light in the windows. I bought one good couch and a sturdy dining table. I hung simple curtains. I made sure the kids had their own corners, Jalen's books, Amara's dolls, so they could feel rooted again. I built routines that weren't just survival, but healing. Sunday meal prep with jazz playing low. Friday movie nights with popcorn. Morning walks still 5:10 a.m., hoodie up, one earbud in, soul music holding me steady. I started therapy quietly, not because it was trendy, but because I could feel the betrayal trying to harden me into someone I didn't want to be. I didn't want to become bitter. I wanted to become free. Therapy gave me language for things I've been swallowing my whole life. The last time Keisha tried to pull me back into the old pattern, She stood outside my new building with her arms crossed and her face set like stone. "So this is it," she said, scanning the place like she was judging my piece. "You really gonna act like I'm the enemy?" I looked at her and felt sadness more than anger. "You made choices," I said. "Now we live with them." Keisha scoffed, nails tapping her thigh. "Tap, tap, tap." "Whatever," she said, but her voice sounded thinner than before. I didn't get closure from her. I got it from myself. I went inside, locked my door, set my keys in the same bowl by the entrance, and stood in the quiet living room while the kids laughed down the hall. No speeches, no crowd, no viral justice, just the soft sound of a life returning to its rightful owner. I thought about that sentence Keisha said, "He thinks they're his," and I realized something that surprised me. Whatever blood says, I showed up. I loved it. I was protected. I built it. And I didn't need her permission to keep my dignity. If you made it this far, you just watched what real karma looks like. No shouting, no begging, no chasing. Just boundaries and consequences. If you want more stories where the comeback is quiet, realistic, and devastating, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. And drop one word in the comments. Dignity. If you believe peace is the best revenge. The end.